Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we will meditate few minutes. Then after that we have Dhamma talk. So right now Ananda Coronado is going to lead the meditation.
Good morning. So first we'll try to still our mind, and the way we can do that, first we want to get in a comfortable position, relax your body, loosen up your muscles, release any tension. When you feel in a nice comfortable sitting position, put your attention on your breath. Try to be fully mindful and fully aware, present here and now. Be aware of your full breath, your full inhale, your full exhale, and try to find a nice natural breathing rhythm. Once you're able to find this good rhythm, as you breathe in, gladdening your mind. As you breathe out, gladdening your mind. As you breathe in, calming your body. Breathe out. As you breathe in, experiencing your breath. As you breathe in, freeing your mind. Try to sustain your concentration on your breath, and with each breath should be one breath closer to full calm and relaxation. So we'll practice this for a few minutes.
Thank you, Ananda, leading the meditation. Right now, Ananda is our speaker today, so you can start your Dhamma talk right now.
Thank you so much, Bhante. Before I begin, I would like to pay respects to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Whenever I give a talk, I usually select a sutta, and so in this case, when I'm giving a talk almost word for word, you have to pay respects to the Buddha. In Sri Lanka and other Buddhist countries, this is almost always the rule. So before I talk about the sutta, one thing I want to say is one thing I like about the IBMC a lot is how international it is. And you meet monks that are practicing Buddhism from different parts of the world, from different Buddhist schools. One of the things that I want to mention is that in the Buddhism that I practice, Theravada, we're very blessed because we have the most oldest and the most direct sources of the words of the Buddha and the teachings of the Buddha. So even though we have some similar suttas between the Mahayana and the Zen and the Theravada will always have the richest selection of suttas. And I like coming here and talking about these suttas because I know that they're new to some of the people in the Mahayana school, and so this is one of the things that I like. And another thing why we're so lucky is that we have a lot of Sri Lankan monks in this temple, and Sri Lanka historically was the country that preserved a lot of these suttas, because in ancient India they were invaded a few times, once by the Mongols and then by the Muslims, and Buddhism was lost in ancient India, but it stayed in Sri Lanka. And so even maybe like 1,000 years after Buddhism arrived in Sri Lanka, people from India had to go back to Sri Lanka and to get these teachings and to take them back to India. So that's just one thing that I wanted to say. Today I have selected a topic, a sutta. It's called the Girimananda Sutta. And it's the advice that the Buddha gives to Ananda regarding what he described as perceptions that help you to heal. And he talked about 10 perceptions. So the way that the story starts is the Venerable Ananda goes to see the Buddha, and he sits down and he pays his respects to the Buddha, and he tells the Buddha, the Venerable Girimananda is sick and gravely ill. It would be good if the Lord were to visit him out of compassion. And the Buddha responds to Ananda and says, it is possible that the Venerable Girimananda may recover from his disease upon hearing the 10 perceptions. And so the Buddha explains to Ananda what the 10 perceptions are, so that Ananda may go and explain to the Venerable Girimananda what they are, and so he will be healed. And so quickly I want to go over what the 10 perceptions are. The first is the perception of impermanence. The second is the perception of selflessness. The third is the perception of unattractiveness. The fourth is the perception of danger. The fifth is the perception of dispassion. The sixth is the perception of cessation. The seventh is the perception of non-delight in the world. The eighth is the perception of non-delight in the world. The ninth is the perception of impermanence in all other things, not the self, but in all the other things. And the last is the perception of the breath. So now I want to talk about first, what is a perception? So perception is the way that the mind processes all of the information that we get to the senses and how it filters it. So we always receive a lot of information through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, all this, our skin, and we cannot process everything. We have to filter out a lot of things. So there are several filters that do this, like to mention a few: the ego, our likes and dislikes, our experiences. All of these things affect the way that we perceive things. So for example, when we meet someone and they make a bad first impression, sometimes we may meet them again and again and we'll keep that same perception of them. even though they may show a lot of good qualities, we still kind of look at them in the way that they kind of presented themselves. So these affect the way that we understand, the way that we see the world. And in Buddhism, there's pure perceptions, there's distorted perceptions, and then there's purified perceptions. A pure perception is like when we see a color or a shape, and we are able to see, oh, that's yellow. A distorted perception would be like if we said, oh, that's yellow, I don't like yellow. So a distorted perception, the Buddha gives a lot of examples, but a distorted perception, one example is, let's say there's a deer, and the deer sees a mirage of water, and so the deer starts running towards the water. And eventually the deer, he keeps running and he doesn't get to the water, and then he turns around, and when he turns around he sees the mirage and the water, he's run past it. So what he does is he turns around and he starts running the other way. And then what happens is that he keeps running back and forth until it gets tired, and then it just drops. The Buddha, he wanted us to make our perceptions. He used an example. He talked about a goldsmith, and he says, suppose that the goldsmith is working with some gold. He puts it in the fire, he melts it, he sprinkles water, and he makes the gold into this malleable form where he can make anything he wants out of it. He can make a necklace, earrings, a weapon. And in the same way, we by practicing purifying our perceptions, we'll be able to craft the kind of perceptions that we need to help us to heal or to help us to see the reality as it is. So that's what Buddhists believe as perceptions. So now I'm going to start to explain a little bit about each single perception. So the first perception is the mindfulness, or sorry, perception. In Pali, the word perception is sanya. So impermanence. In the first one, what did the Buddha say is impermanent? The Buddha said the self is impermanent. And what does he mean by the self? He means no self. But the Buddha, he wanted to look at the self in a separate way. He wanted to take apart what we consider the self and look at each thing individually. So he said that the body, the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts, and consciousness, each one of these things is not self, or sorry, impermanent. Why is it impermanent? Because it changes. Nothing stays the same. Our body changes, our sensations change, our feelings change, our thoughts change, and our consciousness is always changing. And this impermanence is very important to understand all the rest of them. The second one is selflessness. And the Buddha says, why is there no self? He said that there's no self because we cannot control our body, our feelings, our thoughts, our sensations. We have no control over them. If we had control over our body, we can say, oh, stay looking young, or stay like this and don't change. But we cannot do that. Or if the cops arrest us, we cannot say, no, my body is free. Leave me alone. So because we don't have that kind of control, even we think we have control because we can move around, but there's some disease, like if someone gets paralyzed, they don't have that control no more. So the Buddha says, if you don't have that control, it's not yours. And if you think it's yours, all you're doing is depending your happiness on something that is going to change. So I'll get a little bit into that a little later. The next one is the perception of unattractiveness. And so let me read really quick. So what did the Buddha say about unattractiveness? What, Ananda, is the perception of unattractiveness? Here a bhikkhu reviews this body upward from the soles of the feet and downward from the tips of the hairs, enclosed in skin as full of many kind of impurities. There are in this body hair of head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone marrow, kidney, heart, liver, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, stomach, excrement, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, urine. Thus he dwells contemplating unattractiveness. The reason why the Buddha is focused on the unattractiveness here, not because we can go out looking at people and finding them unattractive, but because a lot of our happiness depends on our perception of our body sometimes. Like some people are in love with their hair, or other people are in love with other parts of their body. That's going to change eventually. And so when that changes, then the people feel hurt. And this is something that like keeps all these plastic surgeons in business. So, for example, there's two aspects of everything, like our hair. When we wash it and people fix it up and they make their hair look really nice, but the hair has the potential to have dandruff, dust, to falling out. So the Buddha just wants us to see things as they really are, without our perceptions clouding the way that we look at things. The Buddha compared the body to a sack with 9 holes in it. And the fourth one is the perception of danger. So here, like a bhikkhu goes to the forest, sits down in meditation, and they consider this body is a source of much pain and danger. For all sorts of afflictions arise in the body: eye disease, disease of the inner ear, nose disease, tongue disease, body disease, head disease, disease of the external ear, mouth disease, tooth disease, cough, asthma, catarrh, pyrexia, fever, stomachache, fainting, dysentery, gripes, cholera, leprosy, boils, eczema, tuberculosis, epilepsy, ringworm, itch, scab, chickenpox, scabies, hemorrhage, diabetes, hemorrhoids, cancer, fistula, illnesses originating from bile, phlegm, wind, or their combination, illnesses produced by change of climate, illnesses produced by careless behavior, illnesses produced by assault, or illnesses produced as the result of karma, and cold, heat, hunger, thirst, defecation, and urination. Thus he dwells contemplating danger in this body. This is called the perception of danger. So after the perception of danger, the next perception is the perception of abandoning. And in the perception of abandoning, the Buddha is talking about abandoning the 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances are the obstacles that are going to prevent us or slow us down in our spiritual enlightenment. So the first one is sexual pleasure, hatred, laziness, doubt, worry. So when we're meditating and we notice these things, we abandon those things. And that would lead us into the next one, which is the perception of dispassion. In the perception of dispassion, this book here gives an example. And the example is right after the Buddha attained enlightenment, he goes and he gives a talk to a group of 1,000 monks that worship fire. And the Buddha was a very good teacher because he used to know how to make the conversation in a way that the people would understand. So he tells the monks that are worshiping fire, all is burning. What is burning? The eye is burning. Forms are burning. Eye consciousness is burning. Eye contact is burning. Whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful or neither painful nor pleasant, that too is burning. Burning with what? Burning with the fire of lust, with the fire of hate, with the fire of delusion. Burning with birth, aging, and death, with sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. Seeing like this, the instructed noble disciple experiences revulsion towards the eye, towards forms, towards eye consciousness, eye contact, toward feelings, with eye contact as condition, whether pleasant or painful. Experiencing revulsion, he becomes dispassionate. And so the Buddha here, he's explaining that when you have this kind of dispassion, the mind becomes directed towards Nibbana. Nibbana is called unconditioned because it is this perfect state. The mind is at peace. And so once you're able to go in this order, so you have abandoning the nivaranas, which are the hindrances, then you have dispassion, next is cessation. And cessation here means the ending of these perceptions arising. So when you're able to abandon, you're able to have dispassion, you'll be able to get into this state where these perceptions, they don't arise no more. They'll arise, but you'll notice them and you'll be able to abandon them right away. Kind of like when kids build a sandcastle at the beach and they play with it and they pretend that it's real. And afterwards they break it and destroy it, and they don't feel really bad because they know it was all pretend. And so our distortions, once we reach to this level, we'll notice our perceptions arising, but we'll be able to abandon them like nothing. And so once we're able to abandon them, that's cessation. And with cessation, once you do that, you'll be able to enter into the jhanas. So the Buddha says, here, secluded from sense pleasures, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana. He considers whatever phenomena existing there pertaining to form, feeling, perception, thoughts, and consciousness as impermanent, suffering and illness, a boil, a dart, misery, affliction, alien, disintegrating, empty, and non-self. He turns his mind away from those phenomena and directs it to the deathless element. This is peaceful, this is sublime, that is the stilling of all activities, the relinquishing of all acquisitions, the destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, nibbana. So the next one is the perception of non-delight in the whole world. And this one I can maybe just give like personal example. When I was growing up, when I was like 12, I used to like to watch the movies. And my dad, he never liked to watch the movies. And my dad had this hidden talent where he could be a very good critic of movies. So when we would be driving in Los Angeles, there's always have these advertisements for movies. And I would joke with my dad and I'll be like, I want to watch that movie. And it would be like Kim Kardashian or something. And he'll make the most funniest jokes about all of those things. And I started to asking him all the time, and he would make very good points about these movies and how foolish they were sometimes. And I'll be like, now I see that all the time in the movies. And so I feel like that's the non-delight in the world. There's a lot of foolishness out there, and sometimes you have to have the wisdom to not see the delight in that. The next one is the impermanence in all the other things. And the last one is the mindfulness of the breath. And so in the mindfulness of the breath, the Buddha, he called it, or this Bhante, he described 4 ways of being mindful of the breath. He called it tetrads, 4 and 4. So the first one is mindfulness of the breath regarding the body, mindfulness of the breath regarding the feelings, mindfulness of the breath regarding our mind, and mindfulness of the breath regarding the factors of awakening and the factors that slow you down. So in Buddhism, when we practice, the more we practice, the more things we should gain and benefit. And those are called the bojjhangas, or the 7 factors of awakening. And so the first one is mindfulness, the second one is investigation, the third one is energy, the fourth one is joy, the fifth one is tranquility, the seventh one is concentration, and the seventh one is equanimity. And so the more that we practice, the more that we meditate, the more that we should start to see these things in our lives. More mindfulness, more investigation, more energy, more joy and tranquility. And that's why we practice. And so if you see these things, these good steps. And on the other hand, the hindrances, we're supposed to see less of those. Less anger, less sexual desire, less laziness, less worry, less doubt. And regarding the breath and the body, when you breathe in, you're calming your body. When you breathe in, you notice any pain in your body. Regarding the feelings, when you breathe in, you're gladdening your mind. When you breathe out, you're relaxing your mind. The mind, when you breathe in, you're gladdening your mind. When you breathe out, you're freeing your mind. And so that's a little bit of the last one, which is the perception of the breath. And once the Buddha taught Ananda these 10 perceptions, Ananda went to tell the Venerable Girimananda, and the Venerable Girimananda was cured from his disease. And I would like to just finish this by talking about how is this perceptions able to heal somebody. The Buddha was not just talking about physically healing, the Buddha was talking about healing your life, healing the way you look at things. So of all the medicines in the world, manifold and various, there is none like the medicine of Dhamma. Therefore, O monks, drink of this. Having drunk this Dhamma medicine, you will be ageless and beyond death. Having developed and seen the truth, you will be quenched, free from craving. So the Buddha is talking about medicine that makes you free, that liberates you, that when good things come, you don't cling to them. When they go, you're not sad. When bad things come, you understand that this is a part of life. It's not that things change that is bad, it's the way that we look at them that is bad. So just have grace, and thank you very much. And maybe one last thing. The Buddha said in this story too, it is possible to remove your defilements. If it was not possible, I wouldn't tell you to do it. But it is possible, so you need to strive diligently. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
Thank you, Ananda. If you have any question or any comment, we have time, we can discuss about that.
Thank you so much.
So very good, and kind of reminding how I can imagine in a kind of drama in a theater, how he was explaining about he himself struggled for 6 years, practicing self-mortification, torturing his own body, even stopped taking food for some time, and finally realized even that extreme practice will not help him. And he formed the middle doctrine. As a result, he discovered the middle path through which he attained enlightenment. As an individual who has attained enlightenment, he realized that there are things that is achievable, there are things that is not achievable. And when you explain the defilements can be reduced and finally can eliminate them, because Buddha himself did that. That's why it's very significant message from the Buddha. Buddha would never say something that is not possible, and also he did not tell anything, he did not even tell lies, even to correct people. He was telling the truth, or he was telling what is really is.
Yeah.
So it's quite amazing when we look at our life. Sometimes we do lies for our benefits, and when we look at the life of the Buddha, it's amazing. He didn't tell even a small lies to correct people.
Right.
And also the point you brought out about the medicine, Buddha was saying most of them becoming I'm repeating what you said, drink the medicine of the Dhamma. It's understanding, realizing the Dhamma. Reading Dhamma is not enough.
Yeah.
Trying to look the Dhamma from our life, within ourselves. Dhamma is like a framework, framework. We look through it. We look our own life through that framework. That's how it enhances practices. And then Buddha also, he himself did that, and he understood it's possible. We use the Dhamma to make ourselves meaningful, our life meaningful, and progress in the path to whatever, enlightenment or whatever. And it's kind of amazing, reminding
It is.
the
And
Dhamma.
yeah, it's very good. Like, sometimes the medicine doesn't taste good, but you have to take it. And I think that, I don't think the Buddha is telling us to go out there and just look at everything with his perceptions, but I think that eventually in our life, we'll start to see that this is true, Even during the Buddha's time, he would talk to people and they would say, I don't like your teaching. It sounds true, and it very well may be true, but I don't like your teaching. And we may not like the teaching too, but one day we'll have to accept the fact that yes, we're getting old and maybe we have a disease, and then we'll need to really apply these truths as a medicine. And like Bhante said, the Buddha, he never told lies. One time, the Bodhisattva's son, Rahula, before the Buddha became enlightened, he had a son, and Rahula was washing his feet. And then he collected this water in a vase, and there was a little bit of water in the vase. And the Buddha said, you see the little bit of water in the vase, Rahula? And Rahula said, yes. And he says, that's the amount of good that people who do not deliberately tell a lie, that's the amount of good that they have. And then he threw the water, and he said, you see that, Rahula? The people who tell a lie, that's like the good that they throw away. So the Buddha knew a lot, and there was another point that you made, Bhante, that I want to talk about. I forgot. I wanted to make another point about something that you said, but
Is it about medicine, or is it like a kind of upbringing, like who wanted to like asking about Buddha, like your teaching is kind of harsh,
yeah,
and then they give an analogy of like, yeah, it's harsh because it's telling you the truth, and suppose like if you love your own son, and he swallows something like and start in the throat, like taking it out will be very hard, it will be painful, but you have to do it because of love to your son. Is that a
yeah.
story?
No, but that's a good point, and I feel like in my life I have learned a lot from people that have to sometimes point out these unpleasant truths, and sometimes in front of people. But I feel like the Buddha's talking to monks here who are trying to get enlightened, so they're really committed to this. We're not like that, but I think that we can apply these things as well. We can learn to try to work on our perceptions. Like I've learned a lot in life. Like sometimes it's not really the things that happen, but it's how I'm looking at those things. And if I just change the way that I can look at them, then I don't suffer. Like a lot of people, they have this trauma that happened in their life, and because of that, they have this identity. Oh, I was abused, or I am whatever, and they cling to this identity, and that causes them a lot of pain and a lot of problems too. Like, oh no, don't talk to me like that. I'm macho. And instead of just like understanding that no, there's no self. You're just always changing. You're always adapting. And or identifying with your thoughts. Sometimes we have bad thoughts, and we look at our thoughts and we feel bad because we have these thoughts. But these thoughts are not you. There's thinking, but there's no thinker. There's seeing, but there's no seer. There's speaking, but there's no speaker. They're just phenomena that's going on. And, if you see it in a kind of like just look at it and be mindful, there's a lot of blessings, a lot of benefits, a lot of wisdom that can come out of this. Just like looking at things in an impartial way with mindfulness. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ananda.
Okay, thank you.
I think we don't have that much question. That's a good one. So I just want to add few things. This, when you go to chanting book, not our chanting book, the called Pirit Pata Parivana, all the chanting book we chant whole night. There are another sutra is called Moggallana Bojjhanga.
Yeah, Bojjhanga Sutta.
Yeah, the Bojjhanga Sutra. The same thing teaching to the Venerable Moggallana. Buddha is teaching to Venerable Moggallana when he was sick also. There are, I think, another what is Chansara, other sutra?
The Mahakassapa?
Yeah, Mahakassapa Bojjhanga, Mahamoggallana Bojjhanga, then it's going to the Ananda talk that Girimananda Bojjhanga. There are 3 sutras teaching basically same thing to the different people. But first 2 sutras is Buddha teaching to the Mahamoggallana when he was sick. Buddha went to his place and Buddha preached him. Mahakassapa also same, when Mahakassapa was sick, Buddha went there and teach. So Girimananda is story a little different. Buddha did not go there, but Buddha sent his attendant Ananda to there to teach. So these 3 sutras is very similar, but different time they teach. Alright, so thank you again, and we'll chant the page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless, I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them all. Dharma creeds are limitless, I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme, I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the sleepy shall all dream, and the sick find self-belief. Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme Om Mani Padme. Thank you for everybody. Thank you, Ananda. Thank you for everybody. I think we have a tea and some kind of candy today, like Sri Lankan, some kind of traditional goodies to eat. So that's it. And next Sunday, please come and join. I think Kusala is going to give a Dhamma talk next Sunday. By the way, I think, I don't know what happened to the Nam. I think he might sick a little bit, not feeling well. He will be here, I hope, next week. So anyway, he was here yesterday. He come and he clean here everything. He prepared the flowers, everything. So, however, we're going to see him this afternoon sometime. We'll call. If he's okay, we are not going. Something a little bit, he's getting old. We all are getting old, that's the truth. So we will go and see. And we wish for everybody, by the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, you all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.